All right. Awesome stuff. So we are now joining live and really great thing. This is us connecting and just to do a podcast recording. Got my man Yaro Starak here. I call him legend in internet marketing. I go way back. You can see the gray in the beard. So I go back too. But I remember, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation for sure. And we're just getting things started. So this is now getting connected, streaming live across multiple platforms. And for those that do catch us live, this is like behind the scenes. So behind the scenes recording of the podcast. So if you're able to join us, drop some questions along the way, and we'll be sure to get to them as they pop through. But let me pull up my notes here. I typically do a live introduction. So let me pull that up and then we'll kick things off. So 1 second. All right. Yeah, really exciting. Really exciting.
I'm just exploring your background here, Brian. There's a lot going on there. So
yeah, a lot of stuff going on for sure. Yeah. So it's and for those of you that's joining, drop in the comments, see if you're able to hear us okay. Make sure that the audio's fine. Yaro, you sound great to me. And for those that are joining, like I said, drop your questions along the way and we'll kick things off here. So let me pull up my notes and we're gonna kick it off with the live introduction. And I got to get in the zone here too. I like to pump myself up, get ready, and all that great stuff. Okay, so all right, okay. Let me get in the moment here. Hey everybody, Brian McCumber here with Tech Money Talks. I am really excited today because we have a very special guest on the podcast. We are fortunate to have Yaro Starak as a special guest on the show. Yaro's a legendary internet marketer from the days of way back. Yaro was blogging, selling online, living the laptop lifestyle before the 4-hour work week. Yaro was teaching funnels before ClickFunnels. Now, if you're interested in starting an online business to make extra money, you better save this episode in your back pocket and listen to it over and over again, because the stories and the tips you're going to learn here will give you the opportunity to quickly launch your own business to help your wallet grow fat. Now, Yaro's done so much more in his business career, and he is now the co-founder of inboxdone.com. It's an email management company that has a team of over 25 employees serving busy entrepreneurs and scaling business owners. So time is money, and everyone's looking to get a piece of his time, and I'm so happy to have him on the show today. Yaro, thanks for joining us, brother. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate I like the before the 4-hour work week and the before the ClickFunnels. I haven't had that in the intro before, so
I had to do something new. For sure, man.
And you didn't ask me how to pronounce my name like a lot of hosts do beforehand, so I can tell you've heard me say things before, so I appreciate that too.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Hey, you deserve it. I mean, to me, you've been a legend. You've been one of the, and I heard other people use the terms OG. You've been one of the internet marketers from the days of way back. And I've been around as well, not as around publicly, but I mean, you could see the gray hairs on the beard and everything. And yeah. So at the same time, I was launching things, and I remember picking up on one of the things, which is just really great. But you know what? I'm so excited about diving into the specifics. But I would say, maybe for the audience that may not know you as well as I do, I would say, maybe give a introduction about yourself, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, before I became an internet marketer, as I say in inverted commas, I was running a couple of businesses. So I grew up in Australia. I went to university there. When I turned 18, it was 1998. The internet was going through that first .com bubble. So an amazing time to be 18, and a great time to enter university, because that was the first time I got a free internet account, to actually access the internet as well. So I got really kind of fell in love with the internet. I started a card game website about a game I played at university and high school called Magic the Gathering, which is sort of my first testing ground to learn how to grow an audience and, sell some cards online. Then while I was in university and after graduating, I had an online essay editing company. which was more of a serious business. I had some freelancers, and I would basically provide thesis and editing services. And it became a full-time income after graduating. So I called my first real business. And it was because of those two businesses that I was able to start blogging and podcasting and essentially teaching and writing and but discovering that I was potentially a coach, an internet marketer. I learned about email marketing. I learned about having a list and creating products, and that's probably when a lot of people like yourself I started to connect with, because it was a kind of a golden era. You had all these product launches going on. There was, I don't know, Mike Filsame, Jeff Walker, Rich Sheffer, Evan Pagan, the Stompernet guys. There was so many launches happening, and I was, doing launching around the topic of how to make money blogging at the time. We're talking like 2007, 6, 8. And I think that really was an amazing time for internet marketers, because you could reach the entire planet of people interested in this subject, and you'd become sort of micro famous before this idea of being an influencer. Like, there was not, like, YouTube was literally just getting started at that time. Like, it probably wasn't even, mainstream at all at that time. So, I mean, fast forward, I spent the next 10, 12 years in that space, blogging, selling information, products, my online courses, ebooks, my membership site. And then in the last 5 years, I've been focused on Inbox Done, my current company with email management services. So it's a 20-year career in summary there.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome for sure. And you've done so much and interacted with so many from back then. And it actually has me excited about your perspective on how things have shifted in there. So hopefully we get into all these conversations here. But one of the first things, actually, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and let's see if this works. All right. Yep. So this right here, this diagram about the sales funnel, tell the story behind this now. And for the audience that are catching us live, you're able to see this visual. It's a picture of Yaro's blogging sales funnel, which I think was great. This was one of the things that I remember catching even before ClickFunnels and for the whole real mainstream adoption of funnels as a way to sell. And then but I was curious, maybe if you could tell the backstory, behind this, as you were going through, one, doing it for your own business, but then two, sharing that with the world.
Yeah, I love it. You brought this up, Brian. No one has showed this graphic before on a podcast, so this is fun. Yeah, I mean, obviously Russell Brunson deserves massive credit with ClickFunnels to sort of turn that into a mainstream concept to begin with. But
yeah,
I can't remember the exact years. It's probably around 2006, 7, 8. I was selling already my own membership site and course. My funnel, as we call it, was pretty much an email newsletter. I was big on automation, though, so I loved drip release content, basically email newsletters where you can set it up and then people would go through it. You didn't have to create fresh content every day. So my first funnel, so to speak, was really just a 12-month weekly email newsletter, but it wasn't live. I wrote 12 months worth of content, and then people would start at the beginning and go through that funnel. And that sold my first course. And it was amazing. Like, it was, money on autopilot to a degree, because my blog would find new readers, new subscribers, and they'd all go through this sequence, and a few percentage of them would buy my course. So, $400 or $500 a week would come in from sales of that. And that was amazing because it was so hands off. However, around that time, I was also studying, I guess, the next level of this concept where, if you want to go from, I was making healthy 6 figures, but if you wanted to reach $1 million kind of outcomes, I was studying, I can't remember the people doing this. I mean, really, the people who deserve the credit is the old school direct response marketers, the Jay Abrahams and the Dan Kennedys, and prior to the internet. I can't remember who I studied outside of them at the time, but they were talking about these ideas like upsells and downsells, and having like an ascension where people would buy an entry-level product and then graduate to a higher cost product, and you'd sort of you'd find your most responsive customers. And really, a successful business was not built on the low cost products. It was finding the maybe 100 people who will spend $10,000 a year on your highest cost products. So I decided, and to put this into context, that newsletter I ran that business from 2007 to 2011, selling that course. Amazing, bought my first house, bought my car, all the beginning, I was in my 20s, so it was fantastic. But eventually I decided to close that course down. It was getting old. I talked about old things in that course like dig and stumble upon and, what was the other one? Slashdot. And those things were
Yeah.
being superseded by YouTube and Twitter and Facebook at the time. So I realized I had to close my course down. And then I kind of had a pause. I probably stopped for about 2 years. I did a startup. My mom was in hospital. So it was a real transition period. And then I decided about 2013 to kind of restart that business, create a new version of this course, but also, and why you're showing this picture, I was going to take the idea of a proper funnel seriously. And what I meant by that is it's not just going to be one 12-month email sequence. It's going to be products that are entry level. There will be upsells, there'll be bundles, there'll be second chances, like really build out all the additional sequences that can go into a proper built out funnel. And what you're kind of showing there is the graphic I put together that was not just explaining what I was doing, but what was possible. Because I had some of these things, I didn't do everything there. I didn't have live events, for example. But most of those things, that was the model I used. So at the very top, as you can see in the picture, it's a blog. That was like my method for building an audience. That's like a net. There's so many different ways to bring traffic to a blog. It's funny to look at even in that picture. You could probably see some companies that may not be with us anymore. I'm not sure. I was pretty careful with choosing
Oh
the
yeah.
pictures in that. There's Xbox Live, there's WhatsApp. I think I did pretty good. They're all still with us mostly there.
Fairly current. Yeah.
Yeah, Meetup is still going, not the most popular. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of mass market social media slash video gaming slash community building apps there that are all the ways of growing an audience. And you basically use content on those platforms, bring them back to your blog, they join your email list, and then you're just nurturing and bringing people through a sequence to sell usually a front end product. I love a front end subscription. That was my favorite at the time. I had like initially a podcast. You'd love this. It was a podcast of the week kind of, or I think it was podcast of the month at the time, like a membership. So you'd get a new episode released, but you were paying money for a podcast, which already was a little bit different. And then eventually I had a proper membership site, which I still have today. And I love this model because it really was a serious teaching business. That was the ultimate goal here. Really, the ultimate goal was not just the structure, but to have it automated. As you can see in the picture, there's these email images driving downwards at this side of the funnel. And
Yeah.
to me, that was what mattered. It was, can you write email sequences once, and not 12 months worth, but 2 weeks worth of emails that would sell a product. And then, you were maybe enjoying a part of this process. I like to write blog posts. So I love that I could write a blog post in a cafe, and then that would reach new users. Then they would enter that funnel, but that funnel ran just through automation, through email autoresponders, through blog posts, and through automatic delivery of digital products. So I at the time I used Entreport. That was my software for, or my software of choice for delivering my courses and my ebooks and everything. And then I went out there and attempted to teach it. And it's not a small job to build a funnel like that. It is. That was years of my life to build my own one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you laid out what's possible. I mean, all the way through to the back end, and I think this is what most people don't capture. Like, when you think about, there's that artwork where it has like that iceberg and the success, and people only see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't see everything that goes underneath. And I would say, looking at this funnel, probably outside looking in, people are seeing the content and maybe the front end product or maybe even the membership, but then
Mhm.
they don't see what goes further behind when we talk about like high ticket sales and the coaching, the stuff that's really what you call the back end and the profit, that's really coming in. I think most people don't see that, and then the way of nurturing that. So maybe if, like, talk through that. So if somebody is looking to scale, what should they be thinking as far as building out that in their business?
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. Like I was at one point going to go down the live event path, and I was living in Australia, and there was a real opportunity to do that. It was the obvious next step as well. Like I had a flagship course, it was selling great, but I didn't have a $10,000 sort of year long high end program, or even 15,000 or $20,000. The next level. And I had some friends who were big at selling on stage. They run like 3-day weekend workshops, and then they'd sell a $15,000 year long coaching program. And I literally had said, yes, I'm going to set that up and add it to the sort of top of my funnel. And then we started talking about what I'd have to do to get that going. And it was a lot of traveling around Australia, speaking at smaller events, just to build up initial audience, because you have to get people in the room. It's a little different. I was doing everything digitally at the time, and they were doing everything physically in the real world. So I actually made an interesting choice and said, you know what, I'm going to stick to uh, basically focusing a lot on my flagship course and my membership site, because I love the digital aspect and the low touch aspect. I did one coaching call a month. Most of it was consumed digitally. I didn't have to worry about running any kind of workshops or doing private coaching where there's a lot of one-on-one time or getting together into small groups, in like a 10-person workshop. Personal choice, though. I certainly left money on the table, no doubt, by not going down that path. But I really wanted the freedom to travel, the lack of responsibility around needing to keep speaking at events, even the simplest things like organizing a place to hold a workshop. And I'm super introverted, so I know the idea of spending one day talking to people live in a workshop was going to just drain me. So I was really happy in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go further. I know, and to be fair to the funnel concept, a lot of people build this because they're just trying to fill their highest end, $20,000, even up to $100,000 mentoring programs and coaching programs. And rightly so, because, hey, you get 50 people spending 20 grand. That's a whole lot more than, 200 people spending 1,000. So that's why they build the funnel that way. But I was really big on the laptop lifestyle, the 4-hour work week. So much like Tim, Tim doesn't do coaching. Tim doesn't run events. He wants to travel the world. I was the same. I like you said, I kind of loved meeting Tim after he exploded. But before that, I was still just like, hey, I'd love to travel. I love a digital business. So, but yeah, it's very optional. You can build it how you like.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And I mean, it's amazing thing. Like I like to view all those pieces as like, digital assets that are compounding. So it's like, every action, everything that you're writing, producing, it seems to have that compounding effect. And eventually, you get some traction and, there's that, that tipping point where now all of a sudden things are flowing through. It's just an amazing thing. The really great thing about like what you laid out there is that it's still relevant today.
Mm.
How much has changed outside of that model?
Well, nothing really. I mean, what
Yeah.
changes is the platforms you might use to first
All the
find people.
mechanisms. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why when I built the second version of my course, I didn't talk about go do this thing in a Facebook group, because that probably will change. But
Yeah.
conceptually, the funnel concept is, I mean, email marketing hasn't changed. We still write emails and send people content to our list. That's the main thing that most people, when they launch products, yes, they'll post on social, yes, they'll do paid ads, but it's all very much the same tools that we use.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great stuff. And I'm glad that you said that. So I'm curious about your perspective because, I've talked about this in the past, but I'm curious about yours, which is like, I call it that evolution, right? We're now approaching Web 3.0.
Mhm.
And I think in our journey, we started from 1.0, we saw 2.0 and the whole socially connected, now 3.0. So I was wondering if you could, talk through that, how has business and e-commerce and has evolved, throughout there. And what do you see as opportunities going forward in 3.0?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure you can, feel the same about this, Brian. You discover this world of online business, and you, first of all, you learn your basics. You kind of learn what is an email newsletter, or if you're in e-commerce, how do I build something on Shopify or another platform, source a product, or maybe create a product if you're a digital educator. And then once you stay in your space, yeah, like we just said before, you're kind of using these proven models. It's there's new tools that surface, but they're all kind of trying to help you do the same thing, whether it's live chat or help desk software, or some kind of TikTok as a social platform. The thing I love, though, as a person who's been here for a long time, is seeing how there's always an opportunity to ride whatever is the present wave. And you just mentioned the current one that's really just starting to land now, which is that Web3 wave that we're seeing come in. But you can
Yeah.
take, go back a year or two, it's TikTok. You go back a year or two before that, it's Instagram. Before that, it's YouTube. Before that, it was probably Facebook, and before that, it was podcasting and blogging, and that's kind of when I stepped into social media. And before that, like you said, it was 1.0, so it was just a case of having a website and maybe an email list. So each of these periods of time, there was something that was new, that was getting attention. It was a way to access an audience, which means there's a way to potentially make money with it as well. You have to figure it out. Like, people who join TikTok, they go like, yeah, but how do I make money from this? Like, where's the mechanism for earning a return? And then they figure it out. Oh yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
use this external platform to sell a subscription, or maybe we start getting sponsors or whatever it is. But because the attention is there, the audience is there, that's where the option is. So I'm never discouraged for the new people who are coming in, because there's always something they can decide to become good at, attach themselves to a rising platform or rising trend. Sometimes it's just a rising tool. It can be, it's TikTok or it's Instagram. It's a bit risky because you don't want to kind of put all your eggs in an external platform and then they change the rules and you've lost all that audience. That's why I always say bring people to your email newsletter, because then you own that way to reach people. But the tool is always there. There's always something that's sort of cresting on the wave.
Really important topic. So hopefully the audience is catching that for sure, because that's something that's going to keep growing, and like, looking at this journey and the changes. Like, one of the things that I think, especially like the younger audience that's now taking advantage of these opportunities, and the audience that's listening here, that they've been adopting. Primarily, I talked about drop shipping as a focus area over the past like almost 2 years now, and rightfully so. I mean, it's really grown, produced a bunch of, I think I've interviewed over 100 like self-made millionaires that have really grown into this e-commerce business because of the fact that this evolution where now they have everything literally at their fingertips. Like, if you think back to how things were back when you first started, there was no Shopify, there was no strong advertising platform, maybe outside of Google pay-per-click or something. But I mean, even speak to that. Like, what do you see as far as like the access to the opportunities of what people can do right at their fingertips?
Yeah, I mean, it's good and bad. It's funny because every year that feeling of it's super crowded, and there's too many tools and I don't know where to start has increased. I remember when I started blogging, that was new, so that was kind of cool. It was making things easier. Just the simple act of publishing content became easier, and then shortly after that, the first set of tools, I remember one I used early days was called One Shopping Cart. It's like a Kajabi or a ClickFunnels, but one of the very first ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like opening my eyes. Oh, wow, it's so easy to create a product here and an affiliate program. And I can sell physical products like e-commerce or digital products like ebooks. And then suddenly it wasn't just One Shopping Cart. There were all these other tools that were doing and offering the same kind of functionality. And today, obviously, Kartra, Kajabi, Entreport, all these different, Thinkific, Teachable. There's so many different ways to sell things, and that's not even diving into e-commerce. So plus drop shipping, obviously at your end, there's a whole set of tools that I don't even know about because I'm not in the drop shipping world. But I know that is a very well catered to space as well. So it's just confusing, and it's a kind of like I said, a good and a bad thing, because it's great because with so many ways you can do something and so much easier than it was.
Yeah.
But the sense of decision fatigue. I don't know which tool to use. I spend all my time just figuring out which software I should use and not growing my business, right?
Yeah.
Which is not
Yeah.
good. So you have to make sure at some point you really make that choice and say, all right, I'm using this tool. I'm selling this product or service. I'm going after this niche market. This is my positioning. This is my theory. Let's test it out and make sure it works, and put something in front of people with a buy button and try and make some sales. So I did it actually just recently with my most recent company, Inbox Done. Similar story. We're getting started. 5 years ago is when we really took it seriously. And it's a virtual assistant company, which is well and truly a saturated space. There's literally
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands of freelancers offering VA services on Upwork or Fiverr. And then there's hundreds of agencies also doing the same things. But I'm thinking, we've got a unique angle. We provide specialized email management services, but then we still have to decide, how do we reach an audience? How do we build a system around this? What software do we choose? We recently just got into using HubSpot to sort of do the internal tracking of our clients and our business. It's a CRM basically, and just that decision alone is a decision that you have to make versus all these other software platforms. So we're spoiled, but it creates confusion and anxiety, I think, and that's something you have to figure out how to deal with as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that you mentioned that decision fatigue because I mean, there's, everything that's coming up. And I'm glad that you brought up your current company. So I'm going to pull that up for those that are catching us live and on YouTube. You can see Inbox Done, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. But it goes to that point. And actually, let me drop the banner here. It goes to that point where it's like, now that there's so much opportunities at your fingertips, it's hard to decide on what, not only what to choose, but also the follow through. I was wondering if you could, maybe speak to that. Like, what does it take to actually follow through on an idea and not get distracted with like a shiny object syndrome where you're just kind of like, leaving for the next thing because you ran into the first hurdle on what you were working on?
I've been asked about shiny objects, I think, since day one. There's been shiny objects, as we use that phrase. Whether it was, like we said before, pay-per-click advertising was a business strategy at one point. You could do arbitrage. And then before that, it was you could sell on eBay or Craigslist, and then fast forward, it was then drop shipping was huge. And then, nowadays you should become an influencer and grow a huge following on YouTube or whatever. So they're all shiny objects at the end of the day, right? And the most important thing to remember is it's hardest, especially when you have nothing that has traction. This to me is like one of the hardest parts about being a new entrepreneur online is you don't have any signposts that say, this is working, keep following through. You have some kind of sign of traction. And that's one of the best medicines to shiny object syndrome, because traction gives you a path to follow, a direction to stick to. So even with inboxdone.com, the new company I launched, when we tested that idea, it was, I go to my then contractor, Claire, now co-founder, and I said, listen, this is the idea. We want to provide email management services. I want to partner with you, and I think you should be the very first deliverer of the service because you do it for me. Let's test this theory. Can we get 1, 2, 3 new customers? See if the business model works. Are they happy? Can we use our system that we use on my email on their email? So all these assumptions we want to test. And we do that, and we get 2 customers, and we validate this idea. But the fact that 2 people, in fact 5 people booked in for calls, and 3 eventually became paying customers and 2 long-term customers, that's traction. The fact that someone books a call and says, you know what, I am interested in this service, let's talk more about it. That to me is like a signpost. All right, let's follow this idea and see where it goes. Now, eventually you might hit no more signs of traction, or maybe the traction is not big enough, or maybe something's broken in the business model and you have to kind of take a step back, maybe pivot, maybe completely close down that business. But as long as you're getting these signs of progress, and to me that is, are you making sales? Or even before that, are people showing interest in buying and what you're offering? Are you learning more every day from those interactions to make whatever you sell better? And not even just that, it can be really small things at the very start, like you've set up your website, you've bought your domain name, maybe you did your first test purchase as a drop shipper yourself, you buy from yourself and you get the product delivered and you go, okay, this is the experience of buying something. So all that is a sense of moving forward. And then ultimately, of course, though, traction is sales. That's the ultimate proof of concept. You've got to make some sales, get some customers. So that's kind of how I judge ideas when we're talking about these kind of businesses that internet marketers, freelancers, small business owners focus on. It's a little different in the startup world where there's venture capital. They're not necessarily looking for sales from day one. Sometimes it's just about users and audience growth or membership growth without revenue or income, but they're running off money from investors. So it's a little different, but I think for most people listening to this, we all want to have our own sort of either side hustle or fairly good small business, maybe, $1 or $2 million a year. That would be an amazing result. So In that
Yeah.
case, it's all about sales. That's really it. Just show that's traction, that's progress. And remember, and this is especially for the newbies, the shiny object issue is because you haven't fully committed to testing one path. It's very, I was there. I remember this myself with probably the first two businesses I talked about. The first one never made a full-time income, so I eventually moved away from it. I actually sold it. The second one was making a full-time income, but barely. I wasn't exactly rich. I was like, just paying my rent and food. So I was like hearing about a friend who was making great money doing Google arbitrage, or another friend who was doing great things with e-commerce. And this is before there was Amazon or Shopify. So there's always those shiny objects for me as well. And I made the mistake of, I'm going to start Google arbitrage, and I started learning about AdWords. But I would come back to my essay editing company, my main business, because at the end of the day, there were customers, there were repeat customers. I built a little bit of a system there. I had contractors, I had, systems in place for running that company. And even fast forward with the blogging business, I'd written email sequences. You set up shopping carts, you do this work, and it, like you said earlier, it compounds. And in order to have the benefits of compounding, you do have to keep following that one path and building on what you've done in the past. And this is so easy to say in hindsight. Like, I, having done this process 7 or 8 times now, it's easy for me to go, the thing that I stuck to, that was the right business model in the right niche, did eventually get the outcome that I wanted, or at least certainly succeeded to a significant degree. And it's because I stuck to it for long enough, and we kept building on it. Even now with Inbox Done, I have many, many times gone, Claire, my co-founder, we should maybe expand to do these services because I've seen these other companies do really well with it. But then we kind of pull ourselves back and go, no, we're good at this thing with email. Let's stick to that and really, double hammer down on that positioning. And it keeps working because people choose us for that one thing that we do really well. But it's still, that's a shiny object for me. We should add this additional thing and this additional thing. So it never stops, but it is easier with hindsight.
Yeah. No, I mean, you laid out a lot of valuable information there. And one of the things that I want to reiterate for the audience, that hopefully you catch this. So when Yaro was talking about starting this new company, Inbox Done, he started with getting a few sales. If you guys caught that. So like, he started by proving it out by getting some actual sales, and then also using the words testing. So sales and testing to validate, the idea and the business, and then to start, keep building forward from there. So I think great lessons for sure, and hopefully the audience is catching that. So with Inbox Done, so there's a good amount of like e-commerce entrepreneurs that are scaling. They do take VAs to help with customer support, product fulfillment, creating graphics and ads and things like that. So one of the questions that I know would most likely come up is, how is this different than them just having their own VA answering their emails?
Yeah. So, we're not a low cost $10 an hour outsourcing to the Philippine sort of VA service, and nothing
Yeah.
against that. Like, I know so many entrepreneurs who get great VAs from India, the Philippines, Ukraine, where I actually outsource tech work now. For certain things, that's perfect. Like, I think general research, administrative support. When we built this company, we knew, though, going into an inbox of another person, very private, very personal, you need to have really high level English communication skills, attention
Yeah.
to detail, emotional empathy. It's like you're going into the personal life of the person's email that you're managing. So you have to get to know them and get sort of a relationship that works for both of you. So we deliberately made the choice to hire always native English speakers, mostly Americans. We have a few Aussies and Western Europeans for different time zones, but it's very important that we have that level of communication skill, and we're embedding people into other people's businesses. So it's very serious. We are email specialists. We do calendar management. We do other executive assistant services as well, but I wouldn't put us in a place of, say, basic customer support ticketing, which a lot of e-commerce businesses need. We do that. We have some small businesses that we manage the email for the founder and we manage the help desk for the customer service of the business. So we're kind of
Mhm.
freeing up the founder from all those emails every day. We're replying messages for them. And it makes sense to also manage the customer support at that time. However, I think a lot of e-commerce companies will realize, especially if they get large and they want 24-hour support, it makes sense to just go to the Philippines or India and pay $5 to $10 an hour for not just full-time people, 24/7, help desk support. And that's just not what we're built for. We're specialists at email. We build a system around managing email. We're especially specialists at freeing up a person, like you, Brian, who's like the head of the company, the face. You're the one who's probably getting requests every day in your inbox, decisions to be made, tasks that originate there. And we want to try and get you out of using that inbox as a to-do list, and really simplify your life so you have just your core moving your business forward tasks, and you're not looking at email and going, oh, I have to update this software, I have to answer this basic question. That's not your job. It should be delegated to someone who's a specialist at that. And even more than that, like think of it like an email receptionist too, where you need like a front line of defense to vet someone. Is this someone worth my going on my podcast, or should I consider a partnership with them? Really, are they serious or are they not? And your email receptionist can make that decision because they have the intelligence, they have the awareness of your company to kind of be that front line of defense to defend your time. And that's what we really specialize in.
Yeah, yeah. No, critical for sure. And actually, I'm gonna definitely look into the service as yeah. I mean, I do have a VA that helps with that. But I mean, it's important. It goes back to the busy entrepreneur that's now looking for ways to buy back your time. And in this case, just like what you said, there's some cultural norms, especially if you're U.S. based, to know how to reply to individuals or inbound, or what's important and what's not. And it may not be captured or written properly if it came from somebody like you said, from the Philippines
Yeah.
or India, and that happens. But
Oh yeah. I mean, I've hired a lot of overseas contractors, and I just know there's a lot of turnover. There's people sort of disappearing for a couple of weeks and then coming back, and these are issues we can't have with email, because once you outsource email to someone else, if you have to step back in and take it over, it's kind of like flying first class. You going back to doing your email again is very, very difficult. I'm speaking from experience. I delegated email like 15 years ago with that essay editing company. With my blogging and information marketing business, I had 3 people at one stage doing my inbox to really provide 24/7 round the clock customer service and keep me away from all that day-to-day operation stuff. To take all those people away and step in and answer those emails myself, I wouldn't know how. I forget how to use certain software tools to update customer records and things like that. And B, it would be a very frustrating 2 to 3 hours a day of work that I'm so used to not needing to have to do myself, and that's hard to go back to.
yeah, yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean, that's a great venture for sure. And when did you start?
So 2017, I mean, we did some behind the scenes stuff before that, but we, loaded the website up and called ourselves a business from about 2017 onwards.
And so if people want to learn more about that, and actually maybe even describe that, what's that target audience that you're looking for to be able to help with this service. And for people that are in that growth phase of their own business, what should they be thinking about, and when to approach?
Yeah, so it's the sort of thing where, first of all, you need to be busy enough where spending $2,000 a month on a couple of assistants to do your email makes sense. I do say couple because we assign 2 assistants to every client. We do that because of what I just talked about. We want to have that backup. So if someone is unwell or needs a holiday, you've got 2 people. So we don't have to go back and say, listen, you're back in charge of all these tasks. There's 2 there. The one person will fill that gap. So if you can, justify sort of 2,000 a month, but more importantly, if you're the kind of person who is maybe spending 2 to 4 hours a day in your inbox, you're waking up and you're doing email, you're doing it throughout the day, you're going home, you're putting the kids to sleep, and then you're going on your phone or your computer and doing more email before you go to bed. If there was a person or people who are replying to all those emails and leaving you with maybe the 5% of messages that only you can deal with, and that's going to give you back 3 hours a day, and those 3 hours could be used for vision, growing your company, creative work, could even be simple things like exercise, eating right, seeing your family. If that's of value to you, then that's the right type of person. Obviously, it's not for beginner new companies. You just won't be able to justify spending that kind of money on it. And it's not for companies where you've got a full-time EA in-house, already, very, very large companies. So sort of the sweet spot is sort of multiple 7 figures with a very busy owner who needs an executive assistant to take over, especially email and calendar management.
Yeah. No, that covers it for sure. And there's a lot of people that quickly are accelerating into that. So hopefully you guys are thinking about that, because that's one of the things is, to be able to scale. If you feel yourself being bogged down, by messages, trying to keep up with service while still trying to think about growth, it goes back to teaming, and you need to start, putting that system together and building an appropriate team. And in this case, when it comes to email, it seems like this is the solution to work. So that's really great stuff, man. I like it. So one of the things that I was curious about, even like with the future, I think I even saw like on one of your pages talking about, even the future of like, NFTs and things like that. What are you
Web3.
dabbling with in that space?
Oh, a lot. I'm a big fan of Web3. Obviously, crypto is probably what we're most familiar with, and I've owned crypto since sort of 2016. But I'm not as excited about that as I am as a creator at things like DeSo. You might have heard of decentralized social media. There's all kinds of apps being built on the actual DeSo blockchain, so that's worth checking out. It's DeSo, decentralized social media. One of the main apps is called Diamond App. You can go to diamondapp.com and you'll see an interface that looks a lot like Twitter. It won't be that confronting, but there's just a couple of things worth playing with on Diamond App, which is powered by DeSo. Creator coins and diamonds are 2 things. So diamonds are like likes, except you actually get money. So, imagine, I love this as a person who grew up blogging and still loves to create content. Imagine you spend a good half an hour writing a fairly in-depth piece of content that you share on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, and people like it, but you don't get anything back from it. You're just fueling those platforms. On something like Diamond App with DeSo, other members can then give you, you're looking at it right on there on the screen there. So I've received this. I've actually made a few posts on Diamond App, and I've made $5 to $10 just from those posts. And I'm like, oh wow. So you could potentially turn that, if you're a highly valuable contributing member to a community, the community will reward you directly just with likes, which are called diamonds, which actually give you money. So play with that. Creator coins is a little bit more complicated. It's like a cryptocurrency just for you as an influencer, as a creator, and people can buy your coin. It's kind of like a way of investing in you, and it's real money. So that's a kind of example starting point. DeSo also has NFTs, so it's like incredibly easy. Personally, I'm not big on NFTs for just the purposes of sharing artwork, but I'm big on NFTs for the purposes of unlocking membership benefits. So any kind of added value you get with that. And with DeSo, NFTs are simply you upload an image, you turn it into an NFT, and then you decide, what to unlock and give people when they buy that NFT. So really great starting point to kind of learn about what's coming next. Obviously, that's just one tool amongst all the different things that are being built, from decentralized gaming to decentralized finance. Those worlds are very exciting too. But as a content creator, for me, decentralized social media is the more exciting part, because I'm used to creating content, and this just unlocks ways to make money from it that weren't available before. Plus, I love the idea that we're not just giving away our content for free on these platforms that are billion-dollar companies that a very small group of people own and really profit from. Instead, we can directly, as creators and owners of our own currencies, can directly benefit. So I'm definitely stepping into that world. I'm actually working on some software behind the scenes that is looking to be powered by DeSo. So probably later this year, I'll have something to show in this space. but yeah, it's exciting, and I don't know where it's going, but I can see how decentralization is unlocking some pretty cool new tools. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And it's the wave right now. We were talking about the wave before.
Yeah.
You want to ride something, just jump on DeSo, really just explore it, get familiar with it, see how it works and what you can do there, and that can unlock all kinds of ideas, especially because it's super early. Like by starting now, you're like jumping on Twitter when it first got started, or pick any platform you like, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's nice to be there in that first year that it gets released.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'm glad that you touched on that. One, for the audience listening, like this is definitely gold, or this is diamonds for sure, diamond value. And then two is that perspective that Yaro has, which is like this is the thing that you need to appreciate, which is like understanding the shift of 1.0 to 2.0 and what type of game changer it is for the industry in so many ways. And when you're either a content producer or you're selling something, that type of leveling up with this major shift in industry and commerce are major opportunities. And what Yaro's describing is like this is the beginning. So when you think back of the beginning of like when Facebook's just taken off and Twitter, and you could be a part of that, what would you do? You need to start thinking about that now, because this would you agree, is this like another major shift?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know which platforms are going to win. Like we all know MySpace came before Facebook, and we know what happened to MySpace, right? So
Yeah.
that being said, there was a lot of winners on MySpace and Tumblr and all these platforms before something else came and superseded them. What matters is you're there to build your own audience, and then you have to do something to take control of the audience. I think that's the most important step. I can say, go to Diamond app, build a following, start making money directly from it, but also just keep your eye on, okay, how can I actually build a real business around this? So I have a platform of my own. That might be simply, I'm going to create a membership site. So I'm going to bring some of my followers on not just Diamond, but on all of social into my own universe of some kind of whether it's coaching products, it could be subscription of the month products. If you're in e-commerce, you can drop people a box of whatever items you sell. There's all kinds of box of the month clubs, whatever it
Yeah.
is. These are ways to reach an audience that's new and growing. And then if you're lucky and hopefully you're picking the winners, you might find suddenly you're on the platform that becomes the YouTube or the TikTok, or even if you're not, it might still be a secondary player, but you can be a big fish in a small pond and have a huge business too. Like I still think of that today with blogging. I'm not big on YouTube. I'm not big on Instagram or TikTok or any of the new channels, but I still have my blog and I still have my email newsletter. So I still have my own ecosystem, even though blogging is like old, man. It's really old now. So, it's not where most people will start today. So, you can still do really well, even with any tool, as long as you get good at one of them. And I think Diamond, DeSo, and not just Diamond app, that's just one app being built on the decentralized social network. There's messenger apps being built. There's TikTok type apps and Instagram type apps. This is like a whole paradigm shift that's taking social media away from a few companies that own it all, opening up the back end that the content is stored on, so then anyone can build an app on it. Like imagine today you could build an app that actually had access to every piece of content that Instagram has, and you could just manipulate it in a different way. You can't do that because Instagram, Facebook, Meta won't let you do that. With DeSo, it's an open platform, it's blockchain. So it's the content's there for you to use and manipulate. If you create value in a different way, just the way you produce it, curate it, what you show, you can actually build your own kind of ecosystem as well. So there's another level
Yeah.
of opportunity if you're an engineer or you want to put together some kind of DApp, as they're called, the decentralized app, then you could have a business just there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's great stuff for sure. And hopefully the audience is catching this, because what this is now is like it's a new shift, new tools, new opportunities where you can create your own mashup. So we go back, we still have the visual, we bring this, funnel together. Now when you start to think about, well, what can I do with something like an NFT or the smart contract that can unlock, certain things at certain stages of your, sales funnel. And whether
Mm-hmm.
you're selling information or whether you're selling products, but you have you have an audience, you have a base that you're working with, and you're looking to sell them. Now, you know, does it make it, now did you raise the value because they're not just getting the workshop or the boot camp anymore? They're now also getting this, unlocking special access that's going into there.
Yeah.
Do you see something like that playing out?
Oh, you're so right. And we're looking at the blog sales funnel picture there, and there's two layers: membership site, and let's say even live event or private coaching. The two or three bottom layers, that could be NFT and creator coin just as easily, or added to this, where the NFT unlocks the membership site or the ticket to the live event, and
Wow.
the private coaching is only for the people who own a certain amount of your creator coin. Like, imagine they buy $100,000 worth of creator coin and they get access to you as a coach for, as long as they hold that much coin.
Yeah.
The options are limitless for those who want to play around with these new tools.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is definitely diamond value that you dropped here, and thanks for sharing that. And man, I feel like we could talk for hours on this thing for sure. But I mean, it's really great to get your perspective, on this, and it's just amazing. But you know what? I want to stay close to see, what you are developing throughout the year. Is it cool to follow up with you, maybe later on in the year to see how things are going?
Oh, for sure. And please follow me on Diamond app. I'm slash Yaro underscore there. You can find me just by searching for Yaro. And I actually probably spend more time posting on DSO on Diamond more than I would on, say, Facebook and Instagram. So because I want to share on the latest tool and the new paradigm of creator content, not the old ones that I don't really control or own. So
Yeah.
I announce things there first. I'm sharing, like you said, the new platform I'm working on. But well and truly, I'd be happy to come back on the show and talk about that too when I have something to show.
That'd be great, man. Well, that's awesome. And so I want to be respectful of your time, and but I also want to give you a chance to leave some closing remarks with the audience. So I'll let you take it away.
Oh wow, an open
Open mic.
no question asked here. I suspect, I know from the topic of your show and your I can tell your orientation towards your audience, that there's probably a lot of people listening to this who are feeling overwhelmed just by what they're trying to do, like we said earlier, with the decision fatigue on which software tools to use and which product or service to sell. And now we're suddenly throwing in Web3 and decentralization and all these new ways of monetizing. And I remember feeling super overwhelmed, frustrated, because I liked it all and none of it was working. That's like, all of it got me excited, but at the end of the day, there was no money flowing into the bank account, so it didn't really matter. And you wanted to be able to potentially expand into new things, but you needed cash flow to do that as well. Even today, I feel constrained because, sure, I'd love to have a presence and a team running everything on all platforms. We just don't have the cash to spend on all of that. So I think I like to bring it back, especially to a beginner, like we said before. Focus on the sale. You said it really well, Brian. The sale and the testing process to get those sales, because that's real feedback. That's real entrepreneurship. Don't be manipulated by what other people are doing, what other people are saying on whatever it is, podcast or YouTube or social. Definitely don't compare your own process to others, because I really, really caused damage to my own process early on, thinking I should be as successful, or my company should be at this size based on my friend was doing this, or this shiny object thing. My friend's company is growing so much faster than mine because they're in this industry using this tool. And that's constant, man. If you start opening your eyes to other ways to make money, you're stupid because you're not doing e-commerce, or you're stupid because you're not becoming a social media influencer, or you're stupid because you're not blogging or on Web3. And all these tools are growing faster and there's more money to be made. Sometimes you should just close your eyes to all those other things and just head down, build whatever is ready working for you, and keep growing that. That's really what I'm doing myself. Like, I have Inbox done. It is still the majority focus of my day-to-day energy. Like, I still put the most time into what you'd almost call boring things. Let's get another piece of content out the door. Let's refine the copywriting. Let's tweak the positioning and the website presentation some more, because that is compounding on all the effort we've spent in the last 4 or 5 years to build this company. And that can only happen if you do keep going back and doing, those small steps each day to that one project, that one idea. So I'll leave it with that message. And of course, the one last pitch for my company too. If you are at the stage where you have, the funds and you'd love to break free from email and managing your calendar, inboxdone.com. We'd love to do a discovery call with you and see how we can help you out.
Awesome stuff, man. Great wisdom for sure. A lot of takeaways in this episode. Yaro, brother, really great to meet you.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me. And I appreciate your enthusiasm and I love your background.
Thanks, brother.